Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. And we're looking at some very sophisticated culture today. We're looking at Monster Squad. Not to be confused with the 80s movie, which is kind of a cult classic. We're talking about the TV show, and there is no relation between them. NBC, 1976, that essentially imagined the classic Universal monsters as superheroes. Only lasted 13 episodes. It was up against some pretty stiff competition in the form of the Krofft Supershow, which at the time, actually, I'm not sure. Either it would have been Wonderbug and Electra Woman and Dyna-Girl, or it might have been Bigfoot and Wild Boy, Magic Mongo. Oh, and Dr. Shrinker was in that for. Anyways. That was on ABC. CBS was playing the Shazam ISIS hour. So a lot of live action superhero stuff that the Monster Squad went up against, and obviously the Monster Squad did not win, but they should have won, because this is a really classic show. So let's jump into it. Stars of our show: Fred Grandy as Walt. Now, if you're from Gen X, you know Fred Grandy from Love Boat. Played Gopher. He was also a congressman from Iowa later on. So he plays this criminologist, like a college kid who's a criminologist. And he works at Fred's Wax Museum. And he is built in the sort of basement where they have the monster wax figures, a crime computer. It's sort of hidden in this sarcophagus. And when he first turned it on, the oscillating vibrations brought the monster figures to life. Now, supposedly they're actually wax figures. It doesn't really make much sense. One gets the feeling they are, in fact, the real monsters who, I don't know, were like frozen and people thought they were wax figures. Turns out that it's a little bit vague in this children's show. So who are the monsters who have been brought back to life by the crime computer? And you can see it is a fairly sophisticated instrument. Well, first up, we get Dracula, played by Henry Polic II, who was in quite a lot of shows and movies and such. He was Jerry Silver on Webster. Seems like he had a mustache and a lot of stuff. I didn't recognize him, but as soon as I saw a later picture of him, I like, oh, yeah, I know that dude. He was also on When Things Are Rotten, and he voiced the Scarecrow on the Batman animated series. We have Buck Kartanian playing Bruce W. Wolf. The W stands for where. He was an actor on Broadway, in films, television. He was a professional wrestler at one point, going by the name Hell's Kitchen Roughneck. And he was in Planet of the Apes, played Julius, the gorilla that was like guarding the prisoners. We have Frank N. Stein, played by Michael Lane, who was also in the 50s, a professional wrestler under the name Tarzan Mike, and who played like the big heavy in a lot of TV shows and things like that. Couple reoccurring characters: Mayor Goldwyn. That one got me. Mayor Goldwyn. Think about it. You'll get it. Played by Edward Andrews. And we had Officer Mac, played initially by Paul Smith, later on by Richard X. Slattery. They show up a few times. Fairly minor characters. Now, show was produced by Michael McLean. It was created by William P. D'Angelo, Harvey Bullock, and Ray Allen. And those are names that a lot of folks probably don't immediately recognize. But one they should recognize is Stanley Ralph Ross, if you're a pop culture type. Executive story consultant. He also developed the show. What does this matter? He wrote a lot of the 1966 Batman episodes. And this show has a very Batman feel to it. In fact, in 1976, when it was on TV, Saturday mornings, in the spring, it was actually up against the New Adventures of Batman and Robin. I think that was the Filmation one with Bat-Mite, which, if I'm honest, is kind of annoying. So there are a lot of Batmanisms on the show. For one thing, you got the crime computer, right? Similar to the Bat computer. They have their headquarters sort of in this basement. It's not decorated like the Batcave or anything like that, but it's kind of similar. In place of a Batmobile, we have the Monster Squad van, which is really actually very cool. You only glimpse it a few times. Usually there's just a stock image of it driving out somewhere. Very cool, though. That was something I wish had been turned into like a toy. That would be a great collectible. They had utility belts. They had communicators. And they had their CB code names because this is the 70s. And CB code names are very, very important. Walt, in the headquarters, went by the handle Chamber of Horrors. Drac was Night Flyer. Bruce was Furball. And Frank was Green Machine. So in a typical episode, they're going to go up against a special guest villain. Episode 1, it is the Queen Bee, played by Alice Ghostley, recognized from Bewitched and a whole host of different things. Now, all the villains have henchmen, just a couple, lower budget than Batman, so they don't have quite as many henchmen as Penguin or Riddler would have had. Usually, there will be some news report of something going on. They consult the crime computer to find out, get some clues as to where they need to go. Very often, they send Drac out to do something about it initially, to sort of scout around. He can turn into a bat. He can fly. He's the perfect choice. He will then usually end up captured. They do the sort of, well, they're not quite death traps, but maybe a little bit death traps. In the first episode, he's trapped inside this thing. He's coated in honey and then trapped with a bear. Against one of the villains, they have this tickle machine with these sort of feathers that roll down. Hey, look, it's a kid's show. All right. Even more so than the Batman TV show in 66. So you got to expect it's not going to get real serious. At some point, Frank and Bruce show up. Sometimes Walt is in there too. They have a little battle. It's not even as violent as the ones on Batman. And the bad guys lose. And the good guys win. So very, very similar to Batman. It's a spiritual successor to it. For sure. Probably more so than any other show you're going to find. And it's a great concept. The Universal monsters, they want to make up for all of their evil in the past. They become crime fighters. It's fun. It's clever. And you definitely get some doses of the Stanley Ralph Ross humor like you got in Batman on this show. Aimed at kids, but there will be some jokes, some stuff that I think adults will kind of enjoy. A lot of guest villains on the show. Second episode, we have Barry Dinnan playing Mr. Mephisto, who makes these life-sized dolls that can walk and talk, and he's like making duplicates of the mayor and stuff like that so he can be in charge of the city, which is called Metro City, which I think actually technically also the name of the city in the Green Hornet TV show, if you'll notice some of the little bits and pieces of it. This guy did a lot of Broadway. He actually helped Barbra Streisand work up her nightclub act that sort of launched her career. And he played a clone of Hitler on an episode of Wonder Woman. We have Ivor Francis, who played the Tickler, a sad clown. He has never laughed, and so he wants to spread sadness and destroy laughter any chance he gets. He is, in real life, actor, is the father of Genie Francis. So if you remember Luke and Laura on General Hospital, there you go. Did tons of roles. And all these guys, character actors, tons of shows, Broadway, films, TV, etc. Billy Curtis plays the ringmaster. Really weird makeup job. Not sure why they did that. He is holding a bunch of kids hostage at his circus in revenge for all the short jokes that he's had to deal with over the years. Of course, Billy Curtis worked in vaudeville as an acrobat. He was also a professional wrestler. 3 professional wrestlers so far. Played a Munchkin in Wizard of Oz and appeared in the classic film The Terror of Tiny Town. Definitely going to review that at some point. In the future, Marty Allen, known for Allen and Rossi, a nightclub comedian, plays Lorenzo Musica. It's little references like that. No kid was going to get that reference, but maybe mom and dad are watching the show with them. They'll be like, oh, okay, very funny. So he's a failed musician and a glam rocker. I promise you, you've never seen anything as disturbing as him in a skin tight suit with those friggin', elevator type boots on. It's stunning. We get the great Jonathan Harris playing the astrologer who has made a prediction of a massive earthquake and is going to make it come true with an atomic bomb. And of course, Lost in Space, everybody knows him. Episode before that, I don't have a picture of this one. Character called No Face, who is a master of disguise. And at one point, his disguise is played by the great Sid Haig. Horror movies, B-movies, TV, etc. One of the greats of cool pop culture. Julie Newmar on the show, another Batman connection, plays, and I love the name of this character, the Ultra Witch. The Ultra Witch from Surly Manor. Hexes, spells, and incantations. She's awesome in it, as you would expect. She was one of those actresses, no matter how goofy the show was, she always was 100% there for it. We get Arthur Mallet playing, or could have been pronounced Mallet. He was British, probably Mallet, playing the wizard who is miniaturizing and stealing monuments from, all over the world. English actor, he appeared in just about everything. Gunsmoke, Bewitched, Wonder Woman, did a voice in The Secret of Nim. Geoffrey Lewis, also, you'll see him in all sorts of stuff, worked with Clint Eastwood, worked with Robert Redford, father of Juliette Lewis, plays the Skull. This is a good one. Creating an army of the dead to conquer the earth. And he's starting with a mummy. Avery Schreiber plays the Weatherman, who's covered America in blizzards to force everybody to vote him to be their supreme ruler. Of course, Avery Schreiber, Dorito spokesman, comedian. Most importantly, played Mr. Evil on the Harlem Globetrotters Popcorn Machine, which is a Saturday morning variety show that I only just discovered because I was looking up little facts about Avery Schreiber. And I've watched an episode, and it's probably the best of the kids' variety shows I've ever seen. I would have watched the heck out of it. It looks like it came out in 1974. I was only 2 years old, so I was denied the pleasure. Joseph Mascolo plays Lawrence of Moravia, who's like a billionaire who steals for fun. And I put this one on. My wife's in the room. She's like, oh, my God, it's Stefano. It's the character on Days of Our Lives. Not a soap opera my mom watched, so I didn't recognize him. But anytime I need good soap opera info, it's my wife. In fact, anytime we're watching something, she's like, oh, he was on this, and she was on this, and then she moved to that show, and she was evil, and then she knows her soap operas. Last episode, the oddest villain, and another reference that the kids in the audience were not going to get. Vito Scotti, who is like burned into Gen X retinas. This guy was on everything at some point or another. Plays Alberta, who is a, half man, half woman. And they do seem to have different personalities, slightly. And he's melting the polar ice caps with a laser in order to conquer the world, what have you. So obviously it's a take on Victor Victoria. It's a big movie back in the day. Maybe a play. I don't know. I don't know if that was based on a play or if it was just a movie. Anyways, you get little references like that. And you get a few people on the show as henchmen or side characters that we all know. There's Sam Drucker, of course, from Green Acres. We get a guy doing a Jerry Lewis impersonation again for a telethon. It's stuff like that. Like, kids are going to laugh at the goofy stuff going on. Adults will kind of like get the little in jokes and all that. Again, it's not as hip as the Batman TV show was, but it's pretty cool for a Saturday morning live action show. We also get a reference to Famous Amos cookies, because the Ultra Witch sours all the milk in the world, and it destroys cookie sales, because obviously who wants to eat cookies if you can't eat it with milk? The acting from the monsters is great. It's very understated, but it's fun. Frank is sort of like a little bit slow. Bruce is, I don't know, he's goofy. Drac is, I really played very, very well by Polic. He did a very good job at it. And so, it's mostly silly. It's mostly goofy. Great for kids. If you have kids, especially if you have kids you've introduced some of the Universal monsters to, you might want to throw Monster Squad on for a laugh. It's only 13 episodes. They're quick. They're funny. They're goofy. And they did a pretty good job of recreating the vibe of Batman on an obviously much lower budget, and then obviously having to make it much more accessible to little kids to have it on Saturday mornings. So I had never seen this. It was just one of those things. I have a memory, I think, of watching that Batman and Robin cartoon with my dad when I was little. I don't really have a memory of Shazam, Isis, or Krofft. So I don't know. I might have been young enough that my brain wasn't fully cooked yet at that point, and I don't have strong memories. I would have been about 4 years old. So it's something I missed out on as a kid. And then you find out about it later. Thankfully, showed up on Tubi. Got to watch all 13 episodes, and it was great. It's a great show. Obviously, it's a great kids show, but you're not going to get a lot of deep moments for grown-ups in it. But fun show, great pop culture, something that probably should have gotten more episodes, should have gotten more merchandise. I think we were all kind of robbed on that one. There is some merchandise out there for it, though. If you look real hard, you can find it, and you're probably going to pay a lot of money for it. So Monster Squad, is it something you saw when you were a kid? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think of it. If you have any questions about the show, throw them in the comments. I'd be glad to answer. If you enjoyed this little review, this little look back at a sort of a little hidden gem, a little lost show from back in the time, because it's not a Krofft show, and those kind of dominate most people's consciousness of live action kids entertainment from the 70s. This doesn't come from the Kroffts, but it's really worthy of being right in there with them. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That always helps me out. Until next time, God bless everybody. Have some fun. Be kind to one another. And hopefully you'll join dear old Dad in the den for another video soon. Until then, goodbye. And I'll see you later.